Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Iron Bark Podcast, and I am your host, Epion. Today, I don't have a whole lot to talk to you about, but I figured I'd just do an episode because why not? I figured some of you might enjoy listening to it if you enjoy the last one. Last one, absolute banger. I hope if you haven't listened to it, you gave it a listen. Got to talk to Grant. Known the guy for like over a decade, or close, no, not over a decade, around a decade. And I don't know, I love that episode. Thought it was a great episode. In terms of like wildlife news, not a whole lot to talk about this week. Nothing really kind of captivated me or gained my interest. One thing to talk about, Colossal Biosciences. If you're not familiar with them, they are the company that is, they want to bring back the dodo bird, the woolly mammoth, the thylacine, also known as the Tasmanian tiger. Super cool company. I've been following them since basically their beginnings. Check them out, see their updates. Always got like new science updates and their new progress towards making these things a reality. And one of the news updates with them this week was they basically got a stem cell of a Asian elephant, which is a closest living relative to the woolly mammoth. Now that these stem cells have been identified, scientists will be able to use cloning techniques to manipulate them in hopes of birthing elephants with some of the mammoth's key traits. So super cool news, super cool progress. Maybe one day in the future we'll have mammoths walking around. I hope we get them in, Canada. So even if they're only in the United States, I would love for it to be in the northern United States. I imagine it would be like that. Some of the colder regions, probably like Montana. I think that would be amazing. That would also be close for me to go see them if I'm allowed or whatever and get a video. At some point, maybe people will be allowed to see them. There'll be like a touristy thing behind it. And that'd be really awesome to capture like a modern woolly mammoth on video. Obviously, that would be like a dream come true. Like for me, it's like Wolverine, mountain lion, and then you get into the cryptids, which would be like the next big thing. And then it's obviously like the Pleistocene extinct stuff. So like the giant teratorn, the woolly mammoth, saber-toothed tiger, woolly rhinoceros. The list goes on. I could go on and on for days, but that's the nitty gritty of it. Nothing else really to talk about in news. I could talk about the podcast a bit. So, like I said last week, banger episode of the podcast. Outside of the podcast, just some of my content creation on X. If you're not following me on X, I highly recommend that you follow me on there. I've been doing a new series where I record videos. And these videos are pretty neat. They're kind of like in a YouTube style type of video where, someone they're in the top corner of the screen and they're reacting to something that they're watching or seeing or commentating on it. And basically what I'm commenting on, so far only the episodes have been on podcasts with video, most notably Joe Rogan Experience, but only on subjects and topics that relate to like sort of like my brand of content. So whenever he talks about cryptids, nature and wildlife, that sort of thing, that's when I'll comment on it, share my thoughts, my opinions, maybe elaborate more on what they're talking about. I feel like it's kind of like a neat thing. Plus it gives me an opportunity to kind of like be like goofy on video for you guys. I got some big ideas coming down the pipe. I've purchased some more stuff. Hopefully they're here by next week. Hopefully I get to do another video that incorporates this stuff. We'll find out and see. I'm trying to be humorous for y'all. I don't know if I'm that funny of a guy, but I feel like there was a couple times in the video that made me laugh, so maybe it'd make you laugh. Though the jokes it's a 10-minute video, and there's probably like maybe 2 or 3 jokes in it, so the jokes per minute aren't very good, so I wouldn't classify it as like a comedy sketch or, video by any stretch of the imagination. But I do think it's a way of improving my content and having more regular stuff. So, if I have a week's worth of content and I get a wildlife video up, I get some like scenic photos up for y'all, I write like an article, I do like a reaction video. I think like that's 4 to the 7 days of the week plus the podcast. So that's okay. Like we're pretty much covered. I think like that makes my content on X fairly enjoyable. Eventually, once my pending subscriber application has been approved, which it's been over like a year, close to a year, I've recently now kind of like started poking like support, and since I'm an X premium member, I'm supposed to have better support. I'm hoping that maybe that gets approved, and then I'll start doing other things. And some of the plans for that is like I'm going to do like subscriber only spaces, and I'll do that even if like the subscribers aren't present, and then I'll just start creating like a back catalog of that stuff, so you guys can come in and listen to these spaces. Once you become a subscriber, you'll get to listen to those spaces, the entire back catalog of them. You'll get to participate in the spaces, come talk to me, all that stuff, share thoughts. I was thinking about live streams. uh I have some grandiose ideas, but I think that's farther down the thing. But it'd be kind of cool to have like the chat present and me just talking, basically the same as like a space. But I think I might be able to start incorporate, if I get Starlink, I think I could incorporate some pretty cool live streams in the middle of nowhere. And if I was able to do that, I'd be laughing. But Starlink pretty expensive still for like the Roam package. But we'll see. Like if I start making like decent coin off the content creation, then and it becomes like self-supporting, like self-sufficient, I'm like 100% willing to like invest everything I have made from the podcast, made from social media, back into my social media. So it's like I'm in like net zero profits. It's just all being recycled back into making things better, better editing, better whatever. So that's one idea for improving content down the thing. Obviously, I want to do like exclusive videos, that sort of stuff. All this stuff you can see on my extended profile on X, like my ideas for the future for like subscribers. And all you have to do, I think you have to, I don't think it's on Android version. It might be on iOS or iPhone. And I know the internet version, like the desktop version of it, you can go and see like expanded bios. Look in my expanded bio, you'll see, what I'm thinking of doing in the future. Highly recommend checking it out. I think, a lot of people don't realize, like, I put a lot of information in there, a lot of background on me and stuff like that. If you want to know a little bit more about me, it's good to go check that out. What else can I say? Yeah, I don't know. This past weekend, I went up to Peyto Lake. I love Peyto Lake. It's like one of those gems of the Rockies, of the Canadian Rockies. It's in Banff National Park, but it's on like the northern end between that and Jasper. So I don't think it's that far away from me. It's one of the easier ones to get to, at least. It's basically just like a straight drive west. I end up going south a tiny bit, but not really. I like that lake because it's shaped like like a wolf or like a dog. It's kind of like a wolf's head or a dog's head. And I started doing some pictures and stuff like that. I posted them on X. I want to start doing like a toy Voyager. I've done this stuff previously, but I had a friend kind of message me on Instagram, and they showed me these like toy photography with like Lego figures, and they look really cool. And I was like, they're like, oh hey, like I remember when you used to do this stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, I should bring that back. So I'm gonna try to, like, whenever I visit a place, also snag like a shot of Archer, leader of the Gorgonites. If you guys are from like my age group, you'll remember like Toy Soldiers growing up was like a movie in the 90s. It was super cool, and basically there's these toys that were like looking for the outdoors and they just wanted peace and stuff. So I felt like, what a better toy Voyager than a toy based on a movie besides Toy Story, and it's like linked to nature. So I feel like he's perfect. Archer, fucking leader of the Gorgonites, top notch. Like I'm going to start doing some toy photography. That I put a picture of it on my Instagram story. I think it's gone now, but you can find it on my X profile. And I'm at Nature's Epion on X, by the way. And yeah, it's cool. Have it's like him, like kind of like standing in front of Peyto Lake, with like Peyto Lake in the background. He's kind of like dog like, and it's kind of dog like. So I thought that was a pretty banger of like a first picture to post on X. I took a picture of him a long time ago, like maybe 2019. And I used to have a Ryan Gosling as well, like figure from Blade Runner 2049. So I thought that was super cool. I don't know if I'm going to use him too much anymore, but the Archer is perfect. It's on point. And like, and if you guys are familiar with like toy voyaging, it's like you put like a tag on a toy and you get to see, and you leave them in popular tourist like spots, and then you leave a tag on it. It says like, take a picture of me and post it on like this website or like on Reddit or whatever. And you just got to follow this chain, and some of these like gnomes and like little stuffed animals, they've gone around the world. It's crazy because people just pick it up and they go, oh, this is neat, I'll help it. And like they just bring it to Paris, something cool like that. So yeah, that's about all I think I have to say about the content coming out. I would say definitely check out my sort of commentary videos. I think I have them labeled as like Epion commentary video. Check them out on X. The next one is definitely going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting spin on like, and I'm just trying to be entertaining for y'all. Just kind of pump out more and more content. Please like, comment, and share my content as much as possible, especially if you enjoyed it. I am trying to get a bigger and bigger audience. It really helps kind of like, I don't know, just kind of do stuff. I got some like pie in the sky dreams and ideas, but what's realizable in the immediate future is sort of like what I just got planning, but I'm keeping it as a surprise. Um, I don't know. One of the pie in the sky thing ideas I was thinking about, and I don't really know how to go about it, but maybe one of you can DM me or message me. It's like I kind of want to start like a tree planting charity. It's not really a charity. I guess it's like a volunteer type thing where we just start planting more trees. I feel like that's like a really good thing to do. And it seems super easy. It's like in execution, but I feel like that might, like anything, like as soon as you get into like a market or something, there'll be people that'll be like, oh, he's all stepping on our grass. Got to get rid of this guy. He's taking no donations and this and that. But like, I wouldn't even really want donations for anything for it. I would just want to plant trees. Like, I guess someone has to buy the trees, so that might be a problem. But I don't know. We'll see how it works out. I don't know the logistics of it. I feel like I could fund a portion of it myself to some extent. But it was just cool to do like these, like, I don't know what, like, I would have to do more research into how like conservation and like the government feels about trying to like put new trees down to like places that experience forest fires. But there's been a couple places like in the Rockies. I'm like, I wonder if they just leave it or if they do like initiatives where they're like, okay, let's do like tree plantings and that kind of stuff. So that would be something I'd want to get involved in and want to do for sure. But yeah, if anyone knows on like how to start something like that or how to get involved and kind of like just starting like a thing like that, let me know, because it's been on my mind. And one of my buddies recommended it to me like a long time ago, and I was kind of like, yeah. And I planted trees here and there with other organizations, and it was kind of like, it seemed very simplistic. It seemed incredibly simplistic. Like it was like you put a bunch of like shovels, maybe some like fertilizer and some buckets and a bunch of trees into the back of a trailer. You could probably even put them into the back of a truck, really. And you just show up at like a meeting spot, you schedule it, you have some people like message you or like sign up, and then they just come plant some trees. I don't know. I feel like that was my experience with it. It was very like limited. It was just like you showed up, they kind of just told you like how to plant a tree, and then like you just went out and like started digging holes and like planting trees and stuff like that. I feel like there could be more to it to make it more like worthwhile. Like I think there's things you could do to make it more novelty or interesting. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but like, I don't know. I guess you could like give people like keychains or something. Like, I don't know. Like, I think there would be something better to do with it. Like they were doing like photo ops and stuff like that, because they would have like the local politicians come out, but that kind of seems kind of like cheesy. Like it's kind of like, that's not really novelty. Like, I don't know. You got to think about that one. That's something I got to give into the Muse for. Like, actually, that's something I can talk about on the podcast right now is like, where do I get my ideas to do things from? And where do I get like my inspirations from? And the truth is I usually only get really good ideas to do certain things and get compelled to do certain things when I'm out in like nature in the wilderness in the mountains, and I'm kind of just like alone with my thoughts. And a lot of the stuff, like the Iron Bark podcast, the name for that, to do the podcast, it all kind of came from like being out alone. And I kind of refer to this, and I don't know if I'm using this correctly or if this is the right like terminology, but this is how I've come to understand it, is that there's like this thing that some people call the muse, and it's kind of like when you're in like this like vibe or like this state of thought, and like these ideas sort of just come to you out of nowhere, and it's like they've been given to you by the muse. And you know, then some people say, oh, that's religious, that's like God, that's like whatever, that's the universe, that's just your consciousness, that's just how ideas come from, this and that, da 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 da. And I don't know, I'm not saying I do know, but I just call it the muse because that's kind of like from what I've listened to and talked to people about. They're like, oh yeah, it's a muse, like listen to it, follow through on it, do this and that. It's kind of like giving you guidance to like achieve success in some way, shape, or form, even if it's minimal success. And like, I don't know, I've always liked it. Like the Ironbark podcast, I thought was just like an awesome name. If you listen to some of my previous episodes where I talk about the idea of the name being like, okay, it's iron. Like, so the technology aspect of it is like metal, iron. I'm in the mountains, sort of like gray looking, iron bark. And here's the thing, trees for the most part, they actually aren't brown. They're gray. So it's kind of like that iron. Iron bark is like an actual type of tree. It's like a tree bark, super hard. And I don't know. And then the bark and then like the wolf. And then it made for a cool logo with like a wolf and it's like barking into a mic, like talking. It just all kind of cohesively came together. And I think one day maybe it'll give it some recognition amongst the nature, wildlife, and conservation podcasts. Of like, oh, Ironbark podcast, catchy, kind of nifty, Anyway, I'm talking on about everything, but I think more people need to get out, get their thoughts sorted, find peace, and then sort of think about things about what they want to do. And I feel like those ideas will come to them when they're in that good baseline thought, uninhibited by, sugars, caffeines, stimulants, whatever, alcohol, like just kind of like get to like your baseline, like even like watch your blood sugar and just kind of like be in that baseline of thought. And then just sort of just be out in nature and just sort of think and just listen to like the wind, feel the soil, the grass, listen to like the water, listen to like a creek, like a river, and just sort of like, just think, man. Just like look at, if you got some animals around you, just like look at some animals from the distance, like see if you can like look into like, see if you can see their eyes from like a distance. Like if you got bad eyesight, you probably can't, but you just kind of like see them and just like watch their behavior and listen to their grunts, listen to like the bugle of a elk, like just, I don't know. And I think maybe for some people, you just sort of get that inspiration. It's not for everybody. Like a lot of people detest nature. They don't really like and enjoy it. They find it like painstaking and being uncomfortable. And I get it. It's cold. It's windy. It's wet sometimes. It's too hot. There's bugs, whatever. But yeah. Anyway, folks, that's it for today. Sorry for a lame episode, but it is what it is. And actually probably wasn't that bad. Nice little short and sweet. Hope you all had a good weekend. Hope you follow me on X. Reach out to me if you want to come out on the podcast, if you're a nature type of person. Yeah. Until next time. Cheers.